Welcome to Seasons with Vikki. We're going to talk a little bit about seasons right now because we're all in one, whether we realize it or not. We're in a season. Maybe a good season, it might not be a good season for you, but nonetheless, we're in one. What I want to encourage you is that this season's going to end. It will. It'll change. It'll go from, if you're in the season of winter, for example, spring comes next and life becomes a little bit better. And then you see summer come and then the beauty of fall. So, all of those seasons, we really walk through those if we just take time to stop and look. We know that we can do anything for a little while. We can make it through any challenge, anything that we're going to have to make sure that we do. There's no getting out of it, whether it's a job change, it's a life change, whether we're in the middle of living life and raising children, or if we're in the middle of a really tough marriage, whatever we're in, or if we're in the middle of trying to lose 100 pounds and we're thinking this is never going to end. I just want to encourage you, don't give up. Don't give up, because John Maxwell said that change is inevitable and growth is optional. So it's not about that we're not going to go through it, because we are going to go through it. There's no other way but to go through it. We're in change every day, but it's what's going to happen while you're there. There's all kinds of influences that happen in our life while we're going through that season, but it's about what we stop to learn. And most of the time, we're so enamored with just the fact that we're in the midst of that season, and it's painful or it's tough sometimes, or uncomfortable. Maybe it's just uncomfortable, that what we do is we're so focused on getting out of the season that we don't learn what we need to learn while we're in the season. So what happens is then we have to just circle around and go back through that mountain again. And if you're like me, you don't like doing it. And I've done it a lot. It seems like I've done it a lot in my life. So you don't have to continue to do that if you just stop, take a breath, and pay attention. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Isn't that what I'm kind of talking about? That we don't pay attention, we don't learn from it, and so we go around that mountain again. We keep doing it the same way instead of learning a different way to do it. I had a 7th grade history teacher. His name was Kerry Clark there, and he was fantastic. He was just very common sense, very intelligent man, very wise, much more wise than anything. And wisdom, is something that we're to search after. And with wisdom, you can get through a lot of situations in life with wisdom. And you go after wisdom and in search of it. So here's what he did. I don't know if as a class, if we all blew the test, I don't remember. But this is what I remember. I remember that he came in, he sat down on the corner of that desk, leaned in over his elbow to us, and he said, "Okay, you knuckleheads, I'm telling you, you have the right answer inside of you. You do. It was given to you upon creation. You have the right answer. But you're going to have to go sit down on that stump in Muddy Bottom and think about all the pros and all the cons and the consequences of both. And if you'll do that, I promise you, you'll come up with the right answer every time." That day, that man with that little analogy totally changed my life. Because from that day on, I used that, not perfectly every time. Please understand, I didn't do it perfectly every time. Because there were a lot of times I moved on a decision based on my emotions, what I thought, what I felt, or maybe even what I listened to someone else, because I never got alone with myself to think about why do I believe that? Is that really true? Or am I just taking somebody else's word for it? I need to know what I believe. I need to know who I am, so that when I speak and I say one thing or the other to another human being, that I know why I'm saying it. And that statement that he made that day changed a whole classroom full of kids. We're all grown adults now. But I can show you kid after kid that they could go back and tell you, let me tell you about Mr. Kerry Clark. Let me tell you about what he shared with us, the life lessons that he taught us. And those were from just good old common horse sense. And you know, you don't hear that very much anymore because everybody wants to be so intellectual. Well, look where that's gotten us. Not such great places. But those that sit down on that stump in Muddy Bottom, and you may be thinking right now, Vicki, how far have I got to drive to get to Muddy Bottom? I'm not really sure where that is. And I live right in the middle of a city, and so there's really not a Muddy Bottom that I know of. Where would that be exactly? Well, your Muddy Bottom might be out on your back deck. It might be for a walk down the street. It might be that you long drive in your car, or it could be that special place where you get alone and have quiet time in your bedroom or in your closet. We all have different places, and we don't really think about them being Muddy Bottom, but they really are. That really is where Muddy Bottom is. And so we don't always make decisions based on what everybody else says. We need to know why we think that. We need to know why we believe that. And we need to reason it out with all of the pros and the cons. And the seasons will change. They most certainly will change. You know, Martin Luther King said something that just goes perfectly with what I'm talking about tonight. Now let me quote it to you. I can't do it from memory, so forgive me. I'm going to have to just read it to you. It says, rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There is an almost universal quest for easy answers, and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains people more than having to think. So let me just read that one more time because I kind of chopped that up. Rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There's an almost universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. Nothing pains people more than having to think. Isn't that the truth? We don't want to think. We don't want to get in our own head. We don't want to get alone with ourselves because we don't even know how to think anymore because we've been told how to think. The media tells us how to think. The radio tells us how to think. The TV tells us how to think. All of these people influence us, and they tell us all how to think. But they can be the reason that our seasons sometimes are so long and so hard. So what I want to challenge you before I go to our next segment, before I challenge you, I want to challenge you with this. I want to challenge you to go and sit alone with yourself and think. Whatever the subject is, whatever you might be, maybe something that I've said here on this segment, that you would like to know why you think that way. Why do you believe that way? Is that really true? What foundation do you have? What is the pros of believing that way, and what's the cons of believing that way? And is it factual? Can you find evidence enough to stand firm on it? So I want you to try that. I hope that you will. Don't be afraid to get alone with yourself. You're probably a pretty good old person, my guess. So that's all I got to say to you tonight. But what I'd like for you to do is hit the subscribe button. And if you would, ring the little bell too. And share the video with somebody else. Maybe you have a friend that is thinking about some things that's going through a tough time. Maybe it's a tough season in their life, and they just need somebody to kind of help them to think through it. Because really, that's all I want you to do. I'm not trying to give you the answer. I'm not trying to tell you what the answer is. I trust you to get alone with yourself and think through it. Listen to your heart. Listen to your head. And let the two help you find the right answer. Because as Kerry Clark said, it was in there when you were created. Until next time, I'm excited about seeing you then. Hit share and subscribe. Seasons with Vikki says, over and out.